He has a cell which contains about 500 milliliters to 600 milliliters of heavy water with 3/10 molar lithium deuteroxide, which is about 3 times the concentration that Pons and Fleischmann used. And it's a plate electrode, 1 millimeter thick by 2.5 centimeters square. And in addition, he claims that he got turn-on of excess heat after about 5 or 6 days by using a sawtooth current profile input into the cell, doing something, who knows what, to the surface of the palladium. So we're going to attempt that. Whereas we've assembled most of the equipment, and we're going to try ultimately to do a control experiment. But the first thing we want to do is replicate this exactly as it is. I mean, we're trying to ensure, for instance, if he says he built this out of acrylite, we're building it out of acrylite, not plexiglass, which is really the same thing. If he says use polyethylene blocks, we're using polyethylene blocks. There will be a few departures. We, for example, will put are putting heavy insulation around the cell, except in the front, so you want to look into it. But it's going to be more isothermal. I mean, not isothermal. It's going to be more contained with the heat. And the heat that's being taken out is coming out of a heat transfer loop. We're going to measure, calibrate it in 2 ways. The way Takahashi did, by measuring the difference between the center of the cell and the chilling water that circulates in. Also, we're going to measure the difference between the inlet and the outlet temperatures. And we're doing this with a couple of computer systems. We're not going to measure nuclear particles. Here Takahashi is with his graduate students using neutron moderator blocks. We just want to see whether we can reproduce it. We may get a negative result. That will make me disbelieve in cold fusion. Yeah.
But then you read with this press conference here too, you are able to present some kinds of results.
Oh, I'm just telling you that I'm doing an experiment.
Timing.
Is there something bad timing?
Oh yes.
Why?
Because normally you have to,
well,
you know.
No. Normally people say
to present
no. Sir, you have it wrong. Sir, people say that they're doing experiments. That's all I'm saying. I just told you that I may get a wrong result, I may get a negative result.
So how about perusing through this book? Because here this is just the results that have been presented by close to 100 chemists and physicists.
Oh, this is an interesting.
To this effect.
This is interesting. First of all, I very much appreciate knowing why you feel that my discussing an experiment in progress, which is attempting to duplicate something that is published in Scientific American of Japan, why stating that is bad.
No,
is there something bad about that?
No, but if you are able to come out with these same results, you know.
Yeah, I'm not claiming that I have them. In fact, I'm telling you most definitely and clearly, we might not get them because his experiment might not be reproducible, or maybe he has a wrong experiment. From what I've heard of it so far, he's being totally open. Every question we have asked him, such as, exactly how did you weld this to this piece? Exactly what is the thickness of your glass and so forth? He answers to a T. Now, a great criticism of Pons and Fleischmann was made that they were secretive and so forth. I'm saying he's very open, and I'm going to be very open about saying that this experiment is in progress. And I'm going to say also that it does have a little bit of a political message. It does, and I won't deny that for a minute. The message is this: since the Department of Energy has literally decided not to fund this, and that's true, I'll give you the correspondence to show that, to fund any of this work, except as Admiral Watkins says, for monitoring purposes. Okay, we want to show that there are other people who think it's worthwhile. That's all. And I hope that message is absorbed. Yes?
If in your own experiments you are not able to get any positive results, how would you interpret that then?
I would interpret it one of several ways. I would, first of all, we hope that it will actually turn on. You know, I mean, that is, we will actually get to the point where we've gotten enough computer equipment together and all the requisite things so that we think, okay, now at least we think we are ready to press the button and collect data for weeks or months. I hope we get to that. I think we will get to that reasonably shortly. But if it fails, if let's say we do this sawtooth for a week or 2 months or a year, and we keep adding heavy water and it keeps electrolyzing and no excess heat appears, I will interpret it in one of several ways. I will interpret it as, well, in This particular experiment, which we thought was exactly like Takahashi's, we didn't get excess heat. And that could say one of two things. It could say that, and we would check that very carefully, that there was something that he may have done that was wrong, that there was a flaw in his experiment. We already found a thing that we didn't understand about his experiment, just based on the way he published it, and we corrected that misinterpretation in our own mind. So that's one accomplishment we've had already. But it may also be that we would come to the conclusion that he really did have, I think we probably would come to that conclusion, that he really did achieve excess power of this significance, but that for some reason the microstructural aspects of that particular piece of PD, even though it comes from the same company that supposedly manufactured his, wasn't right. Something was wrong. Something was ajar. Now, I think offhand, my hope, and it's just a hope, that he's turning this current on and off over a great range, going from 1/4 of an amp to 5 amps. Okay, that's a very sort of a jarring process. And to me, it's pretty impressive that over this 2 months, at least if you can believe his result, that it didn't stop. Okay, his report of excess heat seemed to be pretty consistent. I'm impressed with that, and it gives me a little hope that maybe our crude system will also be robust like that, or it may not work. Just another dead end. Then we'll try again something else, assuming we have.
If it doesn't work, then you're saying either there's a problem in his experiment or a problem in your experiment.
Yeah, that would be the obvious logical thing. Either we have a problem, or he had a problem.
No, of course he has a problem. I mean, because what is Takahashi saying? He's seeing something that has been seen by other people. Now, the real question is to find out what are the crucial parameters of the reproducibility of this. Now in Japan, they have tried to have new ways of preparation for this kind of electrodes. So, all right, I mean, still, I mean, is in the cooking kind, you know, it's a cuisine kind of experiment, because maybe you could work it, maybe you do that, and then you try. Maybe you think you have the same, maybe you think you have the same electrode, and you don't have the same electrode. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but the fact that now, you know, all this question, what do you do with that, what do you do with that? Why do we have to go away, you know, throw away, you know, all this has been done, has been checked by other people. It's clear that the phenomenon is a complicated phenomenon, and what is the effort that is going on now is really to try and assess what are the conditions to do that. But to really just ask this question of yes and no, I mean, to me, it's totally unscientific. Because in the way, what are we asking really people to do? It's clear that the phenomenon, the fact that you have fusion in a metal matrix different from fusion in a plasma, has to do with the environment in which the deuterium find themselves inside this object. Now, when you say, oh, this is a piece of palladium, this is a piece of palladium, we know very well that, you know, in order to really say these two things are equal, we have to check at least 10 to the 23 or more variables. 10 to the 23 is 1 with 23 0. Now, you understand? Clearly, if you are here asking macroscopic properties like, you know, the dilation constant, the heat capacity, and all these 10 to the 23 variables are going to average themselves and always give the more within the measurement the same answer. But here we are really tapping on something very subtle. Something which is so subtle that it was even thought about, you know, before it could be possible. So all this enormous amount of requirement on the reproducibility, it's just a kind of bad habit, you know, that people, intellectual habit that people have in my field, which is high energy physics. You have you know, usually, you know what the experimental high energy physics is? Just you have two things that go one against each other, and they do things. There are two things. You just control the energy, control the momentum, you do this, and then they will do, under the same condition, the same kind of thing.